All right, here we go. Okay. Hi, everyone. Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. I hope you're doing well. And today we have the one, the only Horse Girl. We're talking a Horse Girl. We're talking a Horse Girl. Um, Electronic music artist, DJ. She has a brand new EP that is dropping just hours from now, which I will be listening to immediately as soon as it comes out. I was lucky enough to catch a live set from you pretty recently. I forget exactly when that was. I think it was like it was around Halloween. That's right, because like I was dressed
Yeah.
up, a bunch of other
hmm
people were dressed up. It was like a crazy Halloween show. It was a very kind of fitting vibe.
It
I'm
was so much
excited
fun.
to.
Yeah.
No, it was nuts. I'm excited to, get a better understanding of you and your work and this project that you have dropping. Let's just get straight into it. First, off the bat, I want to say just thank you for making the time to come through.
Thank you for having me. This is my first time doing a live Twitch
Hmm.
interview. So
Okay. Okay.
I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm sure it's gonna be great.
I'm flattered. I'm flattered to be the first. I'm flattered that again you took the time. And the first thing I wanted to ask you is just kind of like I don't know, getting a bit of an origin understanding here about kind of your background in electronic music and when exactly you started to take interest. Because one of the things that I really enjoyed about your set back in October was that you covered such a wide range of different styles across, the whole thing. Like you played for, I believe, like at least 90 minutes, almost 2 hours. Like you were bordering on, you were in between there,
It was two
and
hours. Yeah.
it
It was
was a
two
2 hour
hours.
set, and you had hard style tracks in there, you had house tracks in there, you had techno tracks in there, you had, you know, um, crazy remixes going on. You threw in a little Darude Sandstorm. Like you were touching down on a lot of different moments and tunes and jams and flipping them and reversing them. And I just wanted to know like when exactly you started kind of like acquiring this wide knowledge base of all of these different styles that you now incorporate into these like pretty massive performances.
I think it really probably started when I was just a little bowl. Like it's always been like this, that I just enjoy music and all sorts of styles. I never really discriminated against a genre.
Hmm.
And I think going out, I sometimes would find myself craving a bit more um, of a diverse set where you're not just having the same kind of genre for 2, 3 hours and then the whole night as well. Um, and yeah, I guess that's just like how I would like to go out, and that's kind of reflected in how I play. Um, and I think there's like a change in audience as well. I think a lot of people enjoy being taken on a ride and are not as much purists anymore, where it's just about just a pure techno set. I mean, that's also still great and it still exists, obviously, but um, I noticed that a lot of the farmies, as I like to call my fans, really enjoy that kind of mix of genres.
Mm. This kind of like restlessness that you have with kind of sticking to one genre or being exposed to the same genre during a set is that something that you sort of like discovered as you would go to sets wishing for a bit more diversity, or were you performing and mostly sticking to certain styles and then wanting to incorporate other stuff as you continue to perform?
Um, Also a bit of both because it's so mood based as well. Like sometimes I'm in a club and I can just tell the energy is not as maybe experimental and it's more straightforward. And then I will
Mm,
also cater to that and it can be equally as fun. Um, so I still feel like I'm sometimes doing a more traditional approach or traditional set. But when I have time for 2 hours, I really can tell the story. And yeah, I think I personally, when I go out, at least that's not that much nowadays, but I do enjoy when the night is different genres and
mhm.
when every DJ is a whole new soundscape, rather than like one whole night of the same relentless beat. But that's just, yeah, my personal take.
When you're talking about being, a little full and getting into this stuff, like what exactly is the exposure point? Was there like an internet connection in the barn, or, was like the farmer giving you exposure to a music streaming platform? Like what exactly was, your point of access here? Because not a lot of horses get access to music.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be surprised. Nature
Oh,
is
really?
a hell of a party. We,
Oh,
like at Sunshine Farms, we had barn festivals all the time. And I think, you just need to go into nature and listen, and you will hear there's constantly music going on, constantly. There's a lot of singers, talented musicians in the animal kingdom. So, but human music, I think it was mostly, yeah, like the music that maybe some of the farmers would play, hard style,
hmm.
Makina,
Hmm.
techno, Eurodance, hardcore, gabber. Like it was very that kind of style, at least in the countryside.
Okay. Thank you for correcting my ignorance. I'm unfamiliar with sort of like obviously the music exposure and the music scene around. I don't spend a whole lot of time around the farm, and I'm mostly in my basement doing interviews, so I'm not exposed to this stuff. You know that more than I do, so I appreciate you giving me that information. Um, Tell me a little bit about the farmies, because what I find interesting is that you're at a point where you're still like, really kind of building your profile and, yourself as an artist and as a DJ, but already very early on, you seem to have like this very, very strong, impassioned. I don't want to say, I don't use the word cult in a demeaning way, but like very strong cult fan base who like really kind of, I don't know what it is, but like they got the memo. Like they show up, they're excited. They're dressed like farmers. They're wearing assless chaps. They're in cowboy and cowgirl garb. They're in cow print. They are, they got the hats on. They got the flannels on. They got the overalls on. Like they're showing out, even when it's not Halloween. Like even when it's not a Halloween show, people are. I mean,
Yeah.
they're in the farmy uniform. So what exactly has kind of like created this really strong kind of general understanding among this fan base of like this is what it's about. This is what we're doing. We're showing up and we're showing out.
Man, you asked me. I don't know, I think it just happened. I never,
You're
yeah,
not
because
you're not you're not you're not
I never
dictating this. You're
expected.
not making them do this.
No. Oh, actually, you found me out. You don't get in unless you're dressed in ranch dressing. No,
Okay.
no.
Oh.
It's no, I really don't know. I think it just kind of happened. I think from the beginning, it was always mainly, maybe in the very beginning, people weren't really dressing in that kind of farm core, but
Right.
they just dressed very flamboyant. And maybe they noticed that this is a space where they can, and where they can dress however the fuck they want to. And I think a lot of my fans enjoy dressing up in general, not just in costume. Um, and it's a space where they're not getting judged. And I think that's pretty much really what it's about. I never told anyone to dress up, and I never really expected it to be this thing, it just kind of grew naturally.
Do you think they're essentially just kind of I think they're kind of taking your lead. I think they're taking inspiration from. I think you're inspiring them.
To dress in farm clothing.
Yeah, or something. I don't know what it is. I mean, I feel like with it, without saying so, you're sort of inspiring them to take the initiative and maybe I don't know, be their true selves.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, if that's what people get from my art, then that's amazing. I think there's also a huge DIY approach. Like I have a lot of fans that really make amazing things. Like they They are amazing at making clothes or at painting and
Mm.
building things. It's really cool to see how much love and time they pour into that. And there were times where, because when I play somewhere, usually if it's a city where I don't really have friends, I tend to give away the guest list. And sometimes I would do something funny like, okay, draw a picture of a carrot, and then you get guest list. And I never really expected anyone to actually do it or
Mm.
to draw these insanely amazing carrots. But yeah, there's some true artists amongst the farmies.
There's some serious audience participation. No, I just find it interesting because like you've done a really great job of like world building around what you do, and I find that to be like a bit of a rarity right now because I feel like the internet kind of has this tendency. I was just talking about this in an interview yesterday, and maybe you as an artist have some thoughts on this. I feel like the internet, music platforms, TikTok have this tendency to sort of like take art and isolate it and pull it out of its original context in a way and present it in a fashion to where, and again, I'm sure you've experienced this, to where people will just sort of see it completely out of its element and they won't understand what the fuck it is and what it's all about. And, the fact that they don't get it they'll be offended about it or they'll be upset about it for
Mm.
some reason. I mean, also in your experience, have you and your sets and your music also kind of come across the paths of people who just like kind of refuse to understand it in any way whatsoever?
Sure, but I think if you put yourself out there, the truth is you're always going to get judged, no matter what you do. Even if you do the most basic thing, someone is going to have to say something about it. Someone's going to get triggered by it. And I think it's a scary thing, probably for every artist to specifically for that reason. But the the people that get it, and the people that don't. I think there's no trying to force anything. And I also don't think art has to be pretty or easily palatable. I think, there's something for everyone. And um, yeah, I'm not taking, what I mean? Like, I feel like I don't, sometimes I don't get this notion that if one thing exists, another thing can't exist. Like, if you enjoy going to the opera, for example, and you don't really like my shit, then that's cool. You can just go to the opera. Like, I love the opera too, but like you don't have to. I'm not making that disappear.
No, it's true. But I mean, what I find to be even almost like hypocritical, a double standard is like, I don't even feel like what you're doing is that far out there considering the general standards of what you would say, is being set for electronic music and DJing broadly. I mean, I've seen sort of like short form videos of your sets uploaded to the internet and have seen dozens of comments like, "Oh man, the scene is over. The scene. Oh man, this is what's happening in the scene now. This is terrible. This is the worst thing." And it's like, I'm
Yeah,
sorry. Are Daft Punk really robots? Is Marshmallow actually a marshmallow? Like you're just kind of presenting
the
yourself in the
scene is
way that
over.
like
Yeah,
it's if the scene's been if the scene is over because of you, it's been fucking over, like what
yeah,
is it?
yeah.
It sort of seems like you have these old heads who are sort of seeing what you do, and even though there's like obviously a lineage to it, they're looking at it as if it's this new bad thing. You're essentially like the fourth horse of the EDM apocalypse in a way, or maybe the
And for
first one.
yeah, yeah. Let's see what other animals come after me. I mean, there's been like what crazy frog, Hampton hamster. I'm not the first one to do this,
Right.
but no, I think there's a nostalgia for
Mm.
times that aren't anymore. And I get that. I feel like if I was like 55 and I used to rave in the 90s and like, things were different back then. Like I get that you're confused. You look at the world now and you're like, "Oh my God, that's crazy and weird and different and I don't like it and it's shit." And fair, I do think like humans tend to have that kind of nostalgia for things that they can't get back anymore. And in like looking back into the past, a lot of things we romanticize and we think they were much nicer and more beautiful than they actually were. Because I think I'm sure the 90s rave scene was amazing and I would have loved to experience it. But I also think it tended to be a lot more potentially male dominated in a lot of the spaces. It was very much like very white and like not super diverse, at least in Europe. And I think things are changing and becoming more mixed up and different genres and different people and different stories. Um, yeah, I
And
think
human
just the
dominated
way of
too.
life.
No, it's true.
Huh?
And again, and human dominated too.
Yeah, very human, very speciesist.
Right. Exactly. Let's talk a little bit about this EP that you have coming out very, very soon. Um, are your nerves about you? Are you dying to get this thing out there?
I normally, when I get to this stage of a project, when it's like you do the press and you do like just the last little things, I just want to have it out. I've listened to it so many times now. I've revisited it, changed things about the lyrics, the production. Like it's at this point, I'm maybe too close to the art to, like to enjoy it at this time. I just want to have it out and I just want to see what it's going to do in the world.
Mm-hmm. A very important Pony VIP is the title of it for anybody who is not in the know. A few tracks from it are out already. One of them made it onto my singles of the year list for 2024.
I saw.
Uh, Appreciate you putting that track out. It's one of my favorites. What else are people in for on this project that they haven't heard, in terms of like the tracks that are already out and about? Like, are there other sounds and sort of subgenres that you're exploring on these other cuts? Are you lyrically broadening the pony space, as it were? Give us a bit of a heads up as to what we're going to hear on the rest of it.
I think it's the first record where I really consciously decided that I don't just want to make club music or music that only works in the club. I
Mm,
think I mean, even with Take It Off, it's obviously a different facet of dance music. It's for what I usually do, a lot slower. It's more classic, housey, ballroom kind of vibes. And I think that's kind of like the theme with this EP. I feel like there's a track called Material Horse and another one, The Scene Before the Kiss. Both of them are, I would say, not really something I would play in the club. So that's really something people can look forward to, that it's like a bit of a new side to me. It's still fun, it's still danceable, but it's not as hardcore, maybe, as
right.
some of my other stuff.
You're doing like some ballads or like pop cuts, that sort of thing?
It's poppy. It's also, I mean, there's some breakcore, breakbeat. I don't even know what I would describe Material Horse genre-wise, because I feel like someone said on my TikTok that it's kind of giving Fruity J Aero. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, but these like aesthetics from the 2000s that people are like obsessed with, like
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Mm,
It's someone said the sound of that track is frutige aero or frutige fruit whatever that thing. And I
hmm.
kind of have to agree. I think that's the new that's the genre.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
In electronic music, in pop music right now, especially like given the Brat Summer and everything, it sort of seems like a lot of these 2000s aesthetics are like back in just a big way, be it in, again, pop or electronic music broadly. You personally, as somebody who's like embracing this a little bit, even subconsciously, is there a reason that you think this is the case, or do you think it's just kind of like reached that point where it's a certain 20 to 25-year-old age when something hits that point, it just kind of comes back?
Probably also a bit of both. I think there's again there's a nostalgia for those seemingly simpler times,
Mm,
and I think also, I mean, within fashion and also in music,
true.
at the beginning of the 2000s, there was maybe a bit more of a maybe a quality aspect to a degree. You know, like music was made still in that kind of old school way where bands and musicians had a lot more resources and time to be in the studio to really work on a project for a long time. And the same with fashion, like the fabrics and the materials were maybe a little bit just better quality than some like fast fashion throwaway stuff that you would get nowadays. So maybe that could be also one of the reason why we're looking back to that time, like thinking, oh, the world was so much easier and better. But
Um,
for me, subconsciously, yeah, I probably just connect good personal memories with the 2000s and the fun of it all.
those pressures creatively that you talk about in terms of, there being a certain time when there, artistically speaking, was more time, better materials to work with, things were being done in a certain sort of way. As a modern day artist, how do you personally feel like you navigate that now? Because I mean, I would definitely say that through the tracks you've released so far, through the way that you present yourself visually, your set designs, also just like your promo photos. It seems like a lot of effort and planning goes into each one of these pieces, and they just come out so colorful and immaculate and creative and funny. Like, how are you making sure that with what little time that you have, you're using it to put out stuff that seems like it took a while to assemble?
Oh, how do I make sure of that? I mean, I'm still trying to find the balance of being in the studio equally as much as being on the road and doing all the other admin things like shoots and just meetings and all these things. I because I'm a very visual being, I really love thinking of fun, creative concepts, and I'm also super excited where my stage design is going to go in the future. But I noticed that in the last years, I happened to make music less and less and less and less and less because
Mm,
I just had less and less and less and less time. And I think a lot of touring artists can like relate to that, especially in the DJ world, because you don't have this kind of album touring cycle where you tour for 3 months and then you're off the rest of the year. It's kind of constantly on, and there's always some party you could play. And I'm grateful for it, but it's also, yeah, it can be super exhausting.
Do you have I mean, I know that you have collaborators, but as much as you want to go into it, do you have a team behind you as well, kind of helping you with visuals, costumes, the sets, the production? It sort of seems like you do have some collaborators here and there who are helping you put this stuff together. And how did you connect with these people, and what do they help contribute to what you do?
Yeah, by now I actually have such an amazing team around me. I think, it's like, I don't know who said this, who said this amazing quote, but if you can do it by yourself, you're not dreaming big enough. And
Hmm.
I think any big artist you see, they have a huge team behind them. And yes, you have to be that creative driving force, but at the same time, I have amazing people that make those ideas come to life. And um, yeah, it's kind of crazy. I think, like I don't know how do I, because some of them are my friends, my dear collaborators, but like others, they they come through management and people that work in the industry for a long time and are like, you should work with this person or you should have this lighting designer. I don't fucking know lighting designers. I don't know.
Right.
So it's
No,
like a bit of
me
both. But
neither. Me neither. I don't know any lighting
yeah.
designers.
But I'm also, like I'm very blessed in that way that I have just amazing creative friends that I can do a lot of stuff with. Like a lot of the shoots I do are literally just with friends.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I figured that probably had to be the case on some level for sure. And no, that quote that you sort of brought up there is, I think, an incredible reminder, especially during an age where it sort of seems like in the media or on social media and on these streaming platforms, it sort of seems like the idealized artist is just like the solo person just making some shit in their bedroom on their laptop, and it's just sort of like presented in that way, and it's almost like the idea of being in a band or a group or a collective or whatever is passe, and it's almost like inherently less marketable or something. When
It's
again
also
in
just not
reality,
true. I mean,
yeah, no, it's
yeah,
it's it's
it's
true. It's
true.
true that it's not true.
Yeah, that kind of artist kind of, I don't think really ever existed.
Mm,
Even in like high art, even in paintings and stuff. Um, if you look at someone like Picasso, where you would say, oh, it's this genius, lone wolf that just created all the time. Yeah, he always had a whole bunch of people around him, including the woman he would be with, that did all the admin. Like you can't really function fully focused on the art and do all the other stuff and do your tax return and your dishes and your everything. It's like it's an illusion. And it's also, I think a lot of artists maybe struggle with that, with this idea that they have to be able to do everything.
right.
And I think it's a good thing to know a lot, like it's especially at the beginning, do that music video with just your friends. Like really learn how to maybe cut a simplistic video, or sit down and learn how to do a very rudimental beat and or how to record yourself. I think it's good to know those things, but you don't need to be a master producer or the best creative director, filmmaker, in order to like make it. And yeah,
Yeah, no. As you were saying, Picasso wouldn't be updating his own TikTok, and to the point
would he
that
be on TikTok?
I feel like he'd probably have some presence there on some level, because if he wasn't uploading his stuff there, somebody else would. So I figured he'd probably just business wise have to beat them to the punch. So,
I think he would kind of maybe be the type of person that has like this kind of like mysterious dark music while
oh
he's
yeah.
just like painting in South of Brown somewhere, and like never really like kind of having that elusive brand, never really talking to the audience.
Mm. Yeah, he's Frank Ocean about it. I get it. Um,
Yeah.
you talk about kind of the downsides of being on this constant sort of like tour and performance grind, and obviously you've put a lot of focus and effort into this EP that you're excited to drop. Do you digging into that a little further? Do you see yourself from this point, from that EP release? Presuming the songs gain traction and get a lot of attention, do you see yourself going fully into just crazy tour mode, crazy party mode, crazy performance mode, or do you see yourself settling down for like a bigger album type release down the road? The idea of putting together like a proper, cohesive, focused, full length album that kind of like, further expands the horse girl world, is that of interest to you? Or, is DJing and kind of competing on that circuit more what you're driven to do?
I would love to finish a full body piece of work and release an album. I think it's more realistic that that's happening next year. Because I really want to take my time, and I think, yeah, as you just said, both at the same time doesn't really work. You have to really set time apart and not just write the material, but also sit on it for a bit, reflect on it, and really, have it marinate, as I like to say. But I think um, I I don't know if touring for me is so much fun when it's show after show after show after show in like club settings.
Mm.
I think it's a lot of fun every now and then to play in a club and play a classic, like just banging ass set. But long term, I would really like to just bring more of my vision alive. And that's really only possible when you're playing headline shows. Because in a festival or in a club context, um, there's just the space and the just the infrastructure normally isn't there to do something really elaborate. And even at big festivals, you have only 10 minutes, sometimes 5 minutes to change over. And so you can't really bring all of that much production.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I think once this EP is out, I'm gonna go to Mexico and play something there. I can't really tell yet what it is, but it's gonna be really exciting. And then this year I'm taking it a bit easier. The first bigger show I think is Ceremonia in Mexico City in like April, just before Coachella.
Okay. Yeah, let's get into some performance dates in a second. But before we do that, if there's anything else that you want to kind of like dig into on this, you talk about, especially in kind of these headline contexts, bringing to life a bigger kind of vision. Like, do you, as of right now, do you have an idea of like what that vision is? Like, where do you feel like your ambitions are pushing you at the moment? I mean, I'll sort of attest to the Halloween show and say that, again, even without people dressing up for it, it was a pretty big event between the giant inflatable fruits and vegetables and the screen stuff going on and, you on stage and just how diverse the performance was. Like, where do you see yourself pushing things beyond that, either in terms of music or presentation?
There's different ways to go about it. I think I want to have a moment where I can really create the entire experience from when you walk into the venue to when you stand in front of stage, where you kind of feel like a tiny bug and you're just like, everything is just these massive, like, grass, and you're just like, yo, what the hell? Like, I kind of want to flip the the perspective because I have a lot of human friends that, for example, are scared of spiders, and I always just think, imagine you're the spider. How scary do human beings look? They're hairless, two-footed creatures that just are going crazy. And I think that could be such a cool thing in terms of life to bring to kind of swap it a little bit, that perspective. But also I would love to step out from behind the DJ decks, maybe at one point. Um, and I think it's just such an interesting medium, performance in general, but also who you get to work with when you start working with stage designers and costume and light. And there's just so much I could tap into. Um, and I think, yeah, so I mean, I don't want to say too much. I think there's going to be already some really cool things happening this year. But yeah, one of my biggest dreams is doing like a bug bug experience.
I mean that sounds that sounds incredible, but again, when this further emboldens the cult to dress like bugs, don't you know?
No, you dress like bugs.
Don't act surprised to me, and when and don't get mad at me when I call it a bug cult. Um, so what are these performances that you have coming up? You mentioned Mexico, you mentioned Coachella. After the EP comes out, obviously, if people are enjoying it, they're probably going to want to come out to see you. Where can they expect to catch you live? Because again, I most definitely recommend it. It was one of the wilder and more fun live shows I've been to last year. So if anybody has the time to do so, they should most definitely go out of their way. Where can people catch you in 2025?
I think the first couple of shows that are coming up is um, on the 4th of April. I'll be in, no, actually, no, wrong. On the 5th of April, I'll be in Mexico playing Ceremonia, and I'm also going to play San Francisco, I think, doing a big headline show just before then. I'm probably getting the dates mixed up, but it's at the beginning of April. And then I'm doing both Coachella weekends. So I think that's for the West Coast, at least, of the US. what I can already announce, and then definitely gonna do a lot of more North America and some South America dates, and I'll also will play European summer. But a lot of these shows aren't announced yet, so I don't want to get into no legal altercations here.
Oh,
Um,
yeah,
but
I
yeah,
don't know if I don't know if a horse can enter a contract, so you may not even be able. They may not even be able to bring you into court.
true, actually. Yeah, that would be a first one. Actually, I don't think so. There's probably been trials done with animals before. I
You're
heard there's like a,
actually you're right. There probably is precedent for horse law.
yeah, I heard isn't there like a mayor cat somewhere in the US?
There's like a meerkat or a dog or something,
You
which I mean
know, there
is
can be a mayor
yeah, or a mare. Um,
or a mayor. Yeah, a Well,
you know,
anyway.
let me just say, you've really hit upon something genius. There's so much potential wordplay that I feel like is not fully explored in what you do, and you really do a great job of working
Yeah.
it into your stuff. I admire that aspect of it. I'll just say that. All right. Horse Girl, again, I appreciate you taking the time and giving us some insight into what makes you tick, your views on music, the EP that you have coming out, and good luck on the release and the live shows. I appreciate your time again.
Thank you so much for having me. This was such a cute conversation. And yeah, let me know what you think of the EP.
I will be blasting my thoughts on it out to the world. You will hear and catch that when it happens. You're the
And don't
best.
hold back.
Oh,
I
I'm gonna
appreciate
beat the
constructive
hell out of it. I'm
criticism.
gonna go like
Okay,
ah,
great.
yeah, yeah.
Send
All
all
right.
of the haters my way out there.
Yeah. They'll all be coming your way. Honestly, I feel like we live in an age where, if you have positive attention on you, that's great, and if you have negative attention, that just sort of like further polarizes the people who already fuck with you. So I feel like you're winning either way. I feel like that's just going to make the
Yeah.
farmies go even harder. They'll just be like, no, this is the best. Shut the fuck up. And, I mean, the haters, as far as I can tell, they're unarmed. The farmies have pitchforks. So I think you're good.
Yes, the farmies have apples, which, that's good.
That
I
too.
don't, yeah, there's no diseases and stuff. They're
Right.
healthy and
Right. Yeah. They're not sick. They're keeping the doctor away. Yeah. All right. Have a good
but
one.
yeah. Thank you. You too. Bye bye.